This follow along routine is for your wrists and forearms. All you're going to need is a mat and a stick, or I have a very light club here. So we are going to start with a wrist flexion pails and rails. So for this exercise, you want to start with your hands shoulder width apart and really try and get that contact with the floor, that full contact, the heel of your hand pressing into the floor, your knuckles pressing into the floor. Get that nice grip with your fingers. So same as we would be doing for our handstand. You want to push the floor away. Again, focus on feeling all that contact. Can you feel your knuckles on the floor? Do you feel the heel of your hands pressing down? And are you gripping the floor with your fingers? And then we're going to keep the heel of our hand down and come forward into a slight stretch. So just move to a point where you're feeling a little bit of resistance. Okay, this isn't the point where it's as far as you can possibly go. The backs of your hands or the heel of your hands starting to lift off the floor. Okay, that's not the position we're going to. We're just going to where you're feeling some resistance. You're feeling a little bit of a stretch in this position, and we're going to hang out here. Right, so as you're in this position, I'm going to hold this position for a while, between 1 and 2 minutes. And as you're in this position, I want you to start bringing awareness to where do you feel any restrictions? Where do you feel tightness? Where are you feeling a stretch? And then think about what is it that you're feeling. So for me, I'm feeling a little bit of a stretch up this side, but I'm actually feeling some work happening on this side, okay? Because these muscles have to work so that I don't fall further forward. So I am feeling something on this side, but this isn't a stretching sensation. The stretching sensation is up this side of my arm and even a little bit into my hand. And so as I'm in this position, I can think, can I let go of some of that tension? So can I relax a little bit, take some deep breaths? And you'll see I got a little bit extra range of motion just by focusing on the area that I was feeling was a bit restricted. So that's about 90 seconds that we've been in this position. So we're going to perform our pails and rails contractions. So many of you may have done this before. It's in handstand building blocks. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to press our hand down into the floor. So you're going to stay in the position, but if you think about the action you're going to take, it's as if you're trying to do this movement, right? You're trying to move from this wrist extension into a straight position. Now it's an isometric, so we're not actually going to move anywhere. We're going to be staying in this position, but I'm pressing down into the floor, starting gently. So I gently start to press down. I ramp it up, build it up a little more. So I'm pushing a little bit harder. And you can just find an intensity that feels good. We'll hold that for 3 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. And then we can stop pressing into the floor. And then we're going to do our rails contraction. We're going to go straight into that. So the rails contraction is the opposite. So we're going to act as if we're trying to pull our hand into more extension. So in this position, what's going to happen is the heel, I want to think about the heel of my hand staying down, but the rest of my hand lifting off. And as you'll see when I try to do this, nothing visible happens, right? You can't see my hands moving because I'm kind of at the end of my range of motion already, and I actually don't have the strength or the ability to lift higher into this position. But I'm working these muscles here, if you can see that, and I'm working some muscles here, trying to lift my hand off the floor. So we're doing that for 10 seconds. And now we're going to push down again. So we relax, press down into the floor. So it's that pails contraction again, pushing down into the floor, starting gently, ramping it up, pushing a little harder. Can you push harder? You want to push at an intensity that feels good, but not something that is putting too much strain. So especially in some positions, this one's not so bad. In some positions, you'll find that your tissue's already stretched and contracting in that position is pretty challenging. Okay, so we stop doing that one. And then we're going to try and lift our hands off the floor. So again, we keep the heel of the hand down and we're trying to lift the rest of the hand off the floor. 3, 2, 1, and we can stop pushing down. So now we're going to see if we can get a little bit further into the stretch. So we take a nice deep breath. We try to relax. Take another deep breath and see if we can come a little deeper into the stretch. And as you're doing this, really feel that same contact with the floor. Is the heel of your hand still pressing into the floor? Is that knuckle area, okay, where your fingers reach the palm of your hand, is that area still pushing into the floor? And then are you still gripping with your fingers? And what you'll find as you're doing this stretch is this is a lot of work, right? This isn't easy. We're not just sitting there getting a little bit of a stretch. We're actually working really hard in this position. And so this time that we're spending here is time that we're spending building strength that's going to help you in your handstand. So we're going to hold this for about 60 seconds. And again, those same things we were thinking about at the beginning. Where are you feeling the stretch? What kind of sensation is that? And can you relax that a little more? Remember, try and feel the difference between work, right? These muscles are getting tired now because they're working hard, whereas these muscles are getting a little bit of a stretch. And then we'll sit back and come out of that stretch. Move your hands around a little bit. Get some blood back in your fingers. Let's move on to, that's our wrist extension. We're going to move on to our wrist flexion, pails and rails. So this one, again, especially since we don't load this position very often, it can be pretty intense. So take it easy. All right, so we're going backs of the hands, as they say in gymnastics, doggy paws, and then backs of the hands on the floor. Now, I've got about maybe 30% of my weight on my hands at the moment, and then I'm sitting back gently. If this feels like, oh, this feels too easy, you can take your hands a little further out, load a little more, and then gently move into that stretch. If it feels like that's too much, place them at your side of your knees, and again, sit back to feel that stretch. So you can vary how much pressure you're putting on your wrists in this position. So going here or going all the way out here. And that might vary day to day, but also don't, put your ego aside when you do this, because you've not loaded your wrists in this position. It's very unlikely that you've spent a lot of time in this position. And so it's not surprising if you don't have a lot of strength in this position. So build it slowly, and that way you'll be keeping your wrists nice and healthy. So we're holding this for 1 to 1.5 minutes or 1 to 2 minutes in this position. And we're just focusing on where you're feeling the stretch. Okay, what are you feeling? What kind of sensation is it? And that area that is getting stretched, where you're feeling any restrictions, can you relax that a little more? Take a deep breath. Can you relax? A huge part of stretching is training your body to relax certain tissues. So obviously I don't want to relax my shoulders because they're holding me in a nice strong position. I don't want to relax my hips. What I want to relax is up here, right? This is what I'm trying to stretch. So can I direct my breath almost to relax just this part? And when I say direct your breath, we just work with the breath, and directing your breath can be a nice visual because we think of our breath as like inhale and exhale, and you can kind of think about that as relaxing. But obviously no breath is actually going into my forearm. Okay, we are going to perform our pails and rails contractions here. Now this is one of those positions that can feel pretty intense. Okay, so when we get in this position, we contract, the pails is going to be trying to push in this direction. This can actually, if you just go from 0 to 100, this can feel pretty intense. So start gently, ramp it up, and maybe you only get to like 50% or 30% in this position. So let's start pushing down, ramp it up a little bit more until you find that kind of sweet spot. And we'll hold for 3, 2, 1. And we can stop pushing into the floor, and then we do our rails. So that's where we go from this position. We're pulling our entire hand in this position. And this is where you want to be careful not to just like curl the fingers. So again, don't worry if nothing lifts off the floor, but we're trying to lift the entire hand. And you might feel some cramping happening in your forearms here. And relax, again, pushing down. So we start gently, build it up. 3, 2, 1. One more time. Trying to lift your whole hand off the floor. Really think about your hand like as if it's a paddle. Okay, so it's not this, it's not something that can bend at the fingers or can curve. It's like a straight paddle. And you're just trying to lift the entire thing from that hinge point at your wrist. And relax. So take a deep breath. See if you can relax. Take another deep breath and gently sit back. See if you can get a little bit of a stretch through there. Again, as well as working on the mobility and the range of motion of your wrists, these exercises are strengthening and training all the muscles in your forearms and wrists and hands. So this is very beneficial for your handstand work. And just try to relax in this position. Notice where you feel restrictions. And obviously, if you need to come out of a stretch, or if you feel like you want to come out of a stretch before I tell you to, it's always okay. Always listen to your body. You know how it's feeling better than I do. So come out of your stretch whenever you need to. We're going to hold for about another 15 seconds here. Good, and slowly come out of this one. Slowly come out. Move your hand around. Okay, these ones are pretty intense. We've got a couple more stretches we're going to do. For this one, you're going to need, I'm using a light club, but really a stick is perfectly fine. I just don't have a short stick, so I'm using this light club. So what we're going to do, to go elbow at your side, we're going to work on the rotation of our forearm here. So I'm going to start in this position. So I'm going to let that rotate from the elbow, and I'm trying not to get like a lot of twisting at the wrists. I'm really trying to get that rotation from the elbow. And I'm just going to let the weight of this kind of pull me down. If you want to add in, if you feel like, oh, I'm not really feeling much of a stretch, you can very gently just grab it with the other hand and gently kind of pull a little further. But again, make sure you're not getting that twisting at the wrist. Make sure it's the full forearm that is rotating here. So we've held for about 30 seconds now. Now we're going to do a contraction. So this is a slightly different protocol. So we've done a 30-second hold. Now we're going to try to press into this hand. So I'm going to try and rotate this direction. So I'm rotating. Again, we start gently. Ramp it up, pressing harder. 3, 2, 1. And relax, and then we can let that go a little bit deeper. Again, you can either just let it come down, or you can use your hand to get a little more range, or even help with the rotation through here. I'm just going to let gravity do its thing here, keeping my elbow at my side. And again, this protocol is 30-second hold, right? Again, trying to relax, trying to notice where we're feeling that tension. 10-second contraction, so we'll do that again. Trying to rotate, press into my hand, building it up, pushing harder. 3, 2, 1, and then take a deep breath. Last time. So we do 30-second hold, 10-second contraction, 30-second hold, 10-second contraction, and we'll finish with this 30-second hold in this position. So this one is actually really challenging for me because of, actually more the next one we're going to do, but because this elbow has had some parts removed. And so you just have to be careful, listen to your body. Okay, we're going to come back, and then we're going to go the other direction. So again, you want to make sure that rotation's happening from the elbow, not from the wrist. Okay, so from the elbow, and you can actually, again, gently press this down. Again, you'll notice like I'm putting a tiny bit of force here, maybe even just letting my hand rest here. I'm not really forcing anything. I'm just giving a little bit extra gravity. You might not need that. If you have a heavier club or something, you might not need that, or a longer stick. Longer stick's gonna do that. So now we're gonna rotate. So it's now as if I'm trying to do this movement. So pressing into my hand, building that up, pressing harder, harder. 3, 2, 1, and then see if we can let that drop a little more. You'll feel stuff working as you're trying that rotation all through here, maybe really deep into your elbow as you do that. We'll hold for 30 seconds. It's really good to time these, just to give yourself a general idea if you're doing close to that 30 seconds or 10 seconds. If you've done it a few times, you might have a better idea and just be able to judge it based on how it feels. Okay, let's go another 10 seconds. So rotating, pressing into my hand. A little harder for 3, 2, 1. And last 30 seconds. Take a deep breath. Get that rotation. For those of you who do struggle with hanging on a bar with that rotation in this grip, this one will really help. I find this really helps my pull-ups. I'm super strong in this position. I go to this position and I'm a lot weaker, and I think a big part of that, and that's something I discovered fairly in the last couple of years, is that I really lack that rotation of the forearm here. And I'm not strong because this is my end range of motion, so I'm not strong in that position. I'm super strong here. And that is 40 seconds. So we're going to switch sides. So elbow tucked into your side. Now come over. Notice where you feel a stretch. Maybe you're feeling it up here. Maybe you're feeling it deeper in your elbow. And see if you can relax, let go of some tension. And then let's do the contraction. So I'm trying to press the club in this direction. 3, 2, 1, and relax. Ooh, so you got that little bit extra range there. And we hold for another 30 seconds. So if you think about this, this is a 30-second, 10-second, 30-second, 10-second, 30-second. We're getting close to that kind of 2-minute mark with these stretches. So let's go again. Pressing into my hands, starting gently, pressing harder, ramping it up for 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath and let that move further. We're all the time keeping that elbow in our side. I'm just going to move out of that position where I lose all the blood in my feet. You can do this standing. You can do it sitting, cross-legged. And I'm going to go to the other side. So again, if you want to give a little assistance, you can. Really make sure that rotation comes right from the whole forearm rotating over, rather than just kind of like a weird twisting of your wrist. If you do feel any pain in the wrist as you're doing this, you can actually kind of support your wrist while keeping the rotation. So you can use your other hand to give your wrist a little bit of support. And then we'll do pressing out. So I'm trying to rotate in this direction, resisting with the other hand, starting gently, ramping it up. 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath and see if I can get a little more range there. Holding this for 30 seconds here. And again, pressing into my hand, ramping it up. Now I can push a lot harder with this hand, 3, 2, 1. Relax and let that drop for the last 30 seconds. So just listen to your body. If one side, you do maybe have some old issues or it just feels a little icky, when you do that contraction, push for, what feels good on that side. And then when you go to the other side, you can ramp it up a little bit if that feels good there. Keeping the elbow in. We really want, if you notice like your shoulder's doing anything weird, that's why I say keep the elbow in. It really helps prevent you from kind of using the shoulder here and getting that rotation from the elbow. So we got 5 more seconds here. 2, 1, and let's come out of that. So that is our kind of short-ish routine for our wrists and forearms, and hopefully after this you're feeling really good for some pull-ups or some handstands, and yeah, hopefully your wrists are feeling really good.